Columbine. But for those who might just not know, 1999, 15 people dead, 2 high school kids, 2 nobodies.
Investigation into the high school massacre is slow-moving and dangerous.
And the 2 young killers. Investigators say this attack appears to have been carefully planned for a long time.
Later found the entire school was booby-trapped. But investigators say they spent their final moments rigging the building and their own bodies with more than 24 pipe bombs. It's in the cafeteria and the library where there was nowhere to run. Witnesses say they laughed as they fired their weapons. Hundreds of students ran for their lives.
They were shooting anyone of color wearing a white hat or played a sport.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals.
Hated jocks, loved the internet, and were fascinated by World War II.
That named itself the Trenchcoat Mafia.
Caress wrote about preparing for the big April 20th. You're all gonna be sorry.
Isn't funny, Krista says, is how the jocks would pick on her friends.
And this past April 20th was the 110th anniversary of Adolf Hitler's birthday.
A Tokyo paper labeled America as a sick gun society.
But no one knew the talk would become reality.
If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
Do you know what it feels like to be spit on your face and have trash shoved down your throat? Do you know what it feels like to dig your own grave? You had 100 billion chances and ways to have avoided today, but you decided to spill my blood. You forced me into a corner and gave me only one option. The decision was yours. Now you have blood on your hands that will never wash off.
These are the words of Sung-hee Cho, who on the 16th of April 2007 opened fire at Virginia Tech University, killing 32 people. Before his death, he sends NBC News a 1,800-word manifesto, including photos and 27 videos. Within them, he discusses at length how this is an act of revenge, that his victims have brought it upon themselves, and he refers to Eric and Dylan as martyrs for their cause.
You have vandalized my heart, raped my soul, and torched my conscience. You thought it was one pathetic void life you were extinguishing. Thanks to you, I die, like Jesus Christ, to inspire generations of the weak and the defenseless people.
John 911, what's the location of the emergency?
Sandy Hook School. I think there's somebody shooting in here. Sandy Hook School.
Okay, what makes you think that?
Because somebody's got a gun. I saw a glimpse of somebody. They're running down the hallway.
Okay.
They're still running. They're still shooting. Sandy Hook School, please.
Within 11 minutes of entering the school, Adam Lanza had murdered 26 people, including 20 children. Like Sung-hee, Adam had an obsession with Columbine and regularly posted on a forum dedicated to the video game Super Columbine Massacre RPG. There he had shared a spreadsheet ranking mass murders by name, number of victims, weapons used, and disposition. Adam lived in total isolation in his room, the only communication he had being through the internet, going as far as to email his mother, who lived in the same house, and block out all natural light from his windows.
At what point did you call the behavioral health hotline or the hotline of some kind?
Like halfway through gearing up.
From the car then?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was something that happened in the car. If you can, I'd like to pretty much hear everything. I want to hear the whole story.
I called him, but I couldn't hear anybody on the other line.
Okay. What led you to make that call?
Just one last chance to see if I should turn back or not.
It was in that moment that James Holmes decided to open fire and murder 12 people within a packed cinema during a screening of the movie The Dark Knight. The only explanation left behind is madness. James was plagued with homicidal thoughts since the age of 10. His studies in neuroscience and attempt to understand why his brain was so different.
This is This is the most unbelievable thing, Barbara. What I don't get is we didn't see this coming at all.
Did you know that he was sick?
No. This is the American horror story, or the world's horror story, is when you have somebody who on the outside is one thing and on the inside is something completely different, and you don't see it.
Major developments after that shooting rampage in California. Tonight, investigators pouring through that manifesto.
Investigators say the deli was one of 10 places Friday night right next to the UC Santa Barbara campus where 22-year-old Elliot Rodger hurt or killed people during his mad drive around town. Rodger killed 3 men inside his own apartment, all stabbed repeatedly. Survivors say the suspect was smiling as he shot at them.
Tonight, it appears Elliot Rodger used his YouTube channel as a manifesto. I temporarily took all of my vlogs down due to the alarm it caused with some people in my family.
I'm such a magnificent guy. I'm beautiful. You can't deny that.
So now those familiar questions. Could this carnage have been prevented? And did law enforcement do enough? So now this is Elliot watching a couple there on the beach.
They're kissing right now. It's torture for me to watch, but I have to do this. I have to film this.
He's forcing himself to watch this so that he can build up the courage he needs to exact revenge.
Of all the people I have talked about so far, and the people I will talk about after, Elliot is the most significant. Why? Elliot was incel. He had a YouTube channel documenting his thoughts about being endlessly taunted by what he could not have, a topic that is all too familiar to me. Failing continuously to do what everyone else seems to do so easily, watching other people enjoy life while you are alone, knowing that this is all due to their rejection, that they'll go on completely unaffected while you suffer wanting justice, wanting retribution. I learned of the shooting during the first few minutes the story had been released from a post on R9K. Elliot's manifesto, My Twisted World, has been read by possibly millions by now, while the news and concerned parents endlessly speculate about what would bring someone to do such a thing, talking about his parents, his mental illnesses, medication, friends, and money, and so on. Elliot had become a celebrity and captivated the attention of many people like him.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
Please, Emmanuel Church, there's plenty of people shot down here. Please send somebody right away. Shot the pastor, he shot all the men in the church. Please come right away.
Okay, my partner's going to be getting some help on the way. Will I get a little bit more information from you, okay? Stay on the line with me. Are you safe? Are you...
He's still in here, I'm afraid. He's still in here. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming.
On June 17th, 2015, after spending an hour with the parishioners, Dylan Roof opened fire on Charleston Church and murdered 9 people. Dylan had left behind a manifesto revealing his racial motivations for the act. In his interrogation, Dylan talks about how one simple Google search had changed his life forever. His interest in the Trayvon Martin case sent him down a rabbit hole of far-right extremism. Dylan's defense attorney claims that every bit of motivation came from things he saw on the internet. He is simply regurgitating in whole paragraphs, slogans and facts, bits and pieces that he had downloaded from the internet directly into his brain. Dylan's mother says something similar. He was locked in his room looking up bad stuff on his computer. Something on the computer drew him in. This is internet evil. What is this internet evil, you might ask, and what does it have to do with incels? I'm not going to tell you that I could even come close to knowing what was really going through these people's minds. But what I can say is what I've come to learn from my own experiences. When someone is excluded from the rest of society, it becomes more justifiable to treat them differently. It's far more easy to bully and harass someone who is a loser than someone who fits in and is acceptable. Victims of particularly violent crimes are always more often minorities or people who are outcasts. After you're like this for a while, your own perception of the majority changes in the same way. You find yourself unable to relate to them anymore. You start to project the source of your alienation onto normal, everyday people. I think it's why Elliot threw his coffee in the face of those girls outside Starbucks. It's why Eric and Dylan referred to their classmates as zombies, or why Dylan Roof chose a group of churchgoers as his target. They weren't people anymore. They were the source of everything that's wrong with the world. To the world around us, these people are evil. They are delusional losers who've been infected by the media and toxic masculinity. To themselves, they are victims, trying to stand up against a cruel yet indifferent world. A world of soulless monsters that they could never really be a part of. In life, they were nobody, but in death, they become legends.